Hey everyone, Sam here at Model Chili Scale Models, back with something a little bit different, a little bit strange perhaps. This is Tasman Models, the Tic Tac encounter. And so this is a local model company based here in the South Island of New Zealand. And they've made a very limited run of this kit, only 14 actually, featuring the famous Tic Tac encounter, which was part of the Pentagon's recently released UFO files, which came out a few years ago. But this actual encounter took place in 2004, when a couple of F-18 Super Hornets from the USS Nimitz carrier group encountered a very strange, fast-moving object speeding over the ocean, and they actually managed to get infrared camera footage of it. Whether or not it was actually aliens, I mean, who knows? It was definitely something strange and something even the Pentagon can't really explain. So it's quite an interesting subject. I thought it would be something a little bit different. So this kit contains a 3D printed resin Tic Tac UFO with a couple of Trumpeter 1/350th scale Super Hornets, the F 2-seat variants, and some custom printed decals to match the markings of the two jets that actually encountered this object. So I believe as of recording they've still got a few of these kits available for sale, and as they only made 14 of them, best be in quick if you want to grab some. I'll put a link in the description to their website, which is jsmodelkits.com. So let's have a look inside the box. So we've got the instruction sheet and the custom printed decals. Yeah, one for each Super Hornet. And it looks like there's some spares. So you've got two sets of the same decals. And the instruction sheet. There's a bit of background on the encounter there. And then just the assembly guide. Yeah, it's the 3D printed Tic Tac. It's quite large compared to the Hornets. So we've got two halves, and they'll just join together. There. Bit of clean up work on the 3D print, which is nice. And yeah, and there are some pins provided to help you connect these two halves. And just by dry fitting, it's not 100% perfect fit, which is expected from a 3D print. So there will be some filling and sanding required to get that nice and smooth and cleaned up. A little wooden base platform. The pins to connect the Tic Tac together, and some little rods for the Hornets, and a couple of Trumpeter Super Hornets. It's funny, I bought a whole bunch of these way back when I was building my Enterprise over 10 years ago now, but I decided to use Tomcats instead, so I didn't end up using them. Alright, so the first job is to connect the two halves together. So basically I just need to attach all of these pins, make sure there's enough room in there for each one. Just dry fitting these first before I super glue. I think this hole here needs a little bit of cleanup just to... Oh no, that goes in. So I'm just going to use a little bit of super glue. Alright, I'll just leave that to set for a while. Right, so with the two halves glued, the next step is to gradually sand down some of the lips that are formed by the two halves not exactly joining up. And yeah, powdered resin is quite toxic. I don't want to be breathing this in, so I'm going to put on a mask and yeah, try not to breathe much of it in. Alright, so after much sanding and even busted out the Dremel for a little bit, just to get some of these large lips sanded back a little bit, I think it's about ready for some filling. And using some Tamiya putty, put it all the way down the seam. So here's how it looks so far after the putty set, and I took most of the dried putty off just using a Dremel. There, I'm not sure what grit this piece is, but pretty much did the trick, and then just finished it off with a bit of sandpaper and just finished it off. And there's still a few imperfections here and there just due to the print, but overall I'm pretty happy with that. There's no more major lips anymore or gaps, and it's just a few coats of paint should help fill in the rest. Yeah, so I'll just put that aside for now and move on to the Super Hornets. I'm pretty sure that the Legacy old F-18C was the first model kit I ever made, well, at least one of the first memories of making a model kit. It was back in the days when me and my dad used to play a lot of the Amiga 500, and we had the old F-18C Hornet flight simulator. We used to play a lot of that. And then one time we were on holiday down in Timaru or somewhere like that. We went into a shop and I saw this model kit of the Hornet, and I was like, Dad, look, it's the same jet that we fly in the game. And he let me buy it, and yeah, I've been hooked ever since. I think the very next model jet plane I bought was probably the F-14 from Top Gun. Although I'm not quite old enough to remember that when it came out. This was like early 90s. I started building jet planes. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. Yeah, you gotta love building jets at this scale. They're so quick. Now, before attaching the two external wing tanks to each jet, there is a slight problem with these kits, is that they're designed to have the wheels down as they would be parked on a carrier, and the kit provides the wheels, but there's no wheel bay hatches or covers, so they've just kind of been left open. So I think I'm just going to fill those in just with some Vallejo plastic putty, because I don't really think I'm going to need to sand, so I'm just going to fill it in and then wipe away the excess, and just hopefully it'll be enough of a job to fill the big holes in anyway. Alright, so that's everything put together. Two Hornets with their two fuel tanks and spare pylons. And now I'm going to start painting the Tic Tac. And I'm going to put on a base coat of Tamiya TS101 base white. Alright, so the base white spray can was quite glossy, so I gave it a few coats of Vallejo flat white. So now it's just a nice uniform base white. And yeah, there's still quite a few imperfections you can see. A lot of that is just down to me roughly sanding the seam away, so it's created a lot of flat spots and a lot of weird angles. Yeah, I just not quite skilled in shaping solid objects. I'm not really used to a lot of sanding. So while the seam is pretty much gone, you can still see weird like surface features and just other little flat spots around the surface. So it's not perfect, and yeah, it's just the way the light catches a lot of the surface features, and there's still quite a few dimples in the resin that I missed with the filling. So it's way too late now to go back and sand it. I've invested way too many layers of paint on this to get it to this level at least, so since you're mostly going to be seeing it just from the top, I'm not too worried about some of the flat spots around the side and the front. I mean, getting rid of that huge lip on one of the corners was quite a big achievement, so I'm quite glad that it's all smooth now, even if some of the angles are quite flat, especially this side here. But anyway, that's just a skill issue, something I need to improve on. Now, before I airbrush the Hornets, I'm going to apply some liquid mask to the canopy so that I can keep that transparent onto the paint. So for the Super Hornets, I'm going to give them a base coat of dark ghost grey. And now I'm going to spray on some Vallejo gloss varnish to get ready for some decals. So because these are custom printed decals, that just means that the whole sheet is one big decal film that doesn't have the individual separated decals, as you can see. So that makes it really tricky when dealing with super tiny decals like this. You just have to cut as close as you possibly can to each one, so you don't get a lot of extra film, which makes handling them, as you can imagine, really tricky. So what I find helps is that for like these navy roundels here, what I'm going to do is cut off the strip as close as I can manage. This is with a fresh blade, so it's nice and sharp. Now, instead of cutting each decal out, what I'm going to do is just lightly score each one close to the decal. So that will just make the decal film, well, it will slice the decal film without actually cutting the paper. So that way I can handle a much larger piece and still remove the decal as small as possible. And now that they've had time to soak, you can see each one is moving around individually. Alright, so that's the Hornets finished up. I put on another flat coat to seal in the decals, and then just brush painted the gloss back over the canopy to give it that shine again, and then just added a few details with paint, like for the engine cones and the nose cone there. And now, using the plastic rods that were supplied for the stand, unfortunately I think the Hornets are just a little bit too heavy, so you can see there that's not quite going to work. But luckily my wife had some spare floral arranging wire, which is about the same diameter. So I just need to cut that down to length, but as you can see that's a lot more sturdy, and these fit into the base quite nicely. So that's just a minor change there for the stand. Of course I'm going to need to paint them over this green. And for the base itself I'm going to apply a little bit of this clear sealant to simulate a water effect. And first I'm going to paint the entire thing a dark blue colour. Right, so first I'm going to pour out into this cup. And now adding some 99% isopropyl alcohol, just enough to cover it up, just because I want to mix this up so it's nice and runny, so it settles down on the surface. And now just to mix it together. And as I'm mixing it up I can see how much excess liquid there is, so I'm just pouring it out as I go. Alright, so now I've got it to a consistency where it's got a nice flow to it, so I can pour it in. And now to add a bit of blue colour. So this is just transparent blue. Just going to add it drop by drop Looks like one drop will do. Now just using an old brush to just slowly even it out and whip it up a little bit just to make it look like rough waves, although not too big, hopefully. Alright, so there it is all put together. And yeah, it's been a really interesting and fun little side project. Certainly something a little bit different. I've learnt quite a few new techniques, especially with the water. This is my first ever attempt at simulating water for a diorama, and I'm mostly happy with how it came out. There's definitely room for a bit of improvement, a bit of refining. It looks a lot better on when the light's behind it. You can see this shiny surface and it looks a lot more like water back there. But overall I'm pretty happy with it. Still a little bit gutted that I couldn't quite get the Tic Tac nice and smooth and flawless. But again, that's just sanding skills that I need to improve and refine. But yeah, I think it came together really well. The wire works really well with the Hornets. Certainly a lot more springy. So they should stay in place quite nicely. And yeah, it's certainly a nice little talking point for my collection. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. And I hope to see you on the next video. So until then, cheers. And if you've made it this far and are still around, then check out this little bonus, which was an experiment that I tried and failed. So it didn't quite make the main cut of the video, but here it is. Just a little bit of glow-in-the-dark paint. I really struggled to get a nice even coverage over the whole thing, so I just kind of gave up, but it looks a lot more impressive on the video than it does in person. I just thought that looks really cool.